Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So for this afternoon, let's have another topic. Okay, allow me to share my screen to you all. All right, so okay, introduction of literature. All right. So Spanish influences in the Philippines. While it is true that Spain subjugated the Philippines for more mundane reasons, this former European power contributed much in the shaping and recording of our literature, religion, and institutions that represented European civilization, enriched languages in the lowlands, introduced theater, which we would come to know as comedia, the sinaculo, the zarzuela, the playlets, and drama. Okay. For comedia, it is a traditional Filipino theatrical form that originated in the Spanish colonial era or Spanish colonial period, descending from the 60th century Spanish comedia introduced by Spanish for religious evangelizations. It features drama, music, dance, with plots and often centered on conflicts between Christianism and or between Christian and Muslims. Okay, their differences lie in their purpose. So they're spiritual versus humanistic. Okay, for the content, that is holy text versus fiction or non-fiction, and for audience, that is faith-based or versus broad. All right. Examples include religious texts like hymns and prayers versus secular works like novels, non-fiction, and everyday life. Okay. The Sinaculo naman, a traditional Filipino passion play depicting life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Okay, this is Sinaculo, which originated from Spanish tradition during the colonial period. Okay, introduced by Spanish, of course, colonizes this Lenten practice evolved to incorporate Filipino elements with the first formal performances dating back to the late 70th and early 80th centuries. It blends the recitation of the Passion or the Sinaculo or Passion, no? A verse narrative of Christ's suffering with dramatic enactments, local music and dance. So this Sinaculo, up to this time now, serve natin to during the Holy Week season, no? Pag Holy Week, ayan, Sinaculo yan, no? Alright, next we have Zarzuela. Ano ang Zarzuela? A Filipino musical theater genre that developed from the Spanish zarzuela during the late 19th century. It blends spoken word songs and dances to tell stories often about romance and societal issues with a patriotic undertone reflecting the nationalist sentiment against Spanish colonial rule. Okay, example like Severino Reyes, Walang Sugat, address themes of the Philippine Revolution and struggle for independence. So that's a zarzuela, no? While the playlets naman, religious or recreational dramas, alright, often pretend during festivals or holidays. Example, Panunuluyan or a Christ playlet about Joseph and Mary's search for lodging. Okay, next we have the Sinaculo, a passion play depicting the suffering and death of Jesus Christ, no? The Salubong, an Easter play showing the meeting of the risen Christ, no? And his mother, and the Zarzuela, a musical comedy or melodrama, okay? And musical comedy melodrama reflecting emotions and social issues, other form theatrical, and the Moro Moro, of course, the folk shadow plays like the Carillo. Okay. So, yung mga nabanggit 'no, mga playlets na yun na Sinaculo, even the Easter Sunday, the Salubong 'no. So, lahat yun during Holy Week natin yan ma-o-observe. So, the Sinaculo, it's prior to the Holy Week ano, and then after that, by the Sunday of the week 'no, pagka-Sunday nun, that's we celebrate the Salubong 'no. Okay. So the drama refer to either the Spanish golden age of theater, roughly around 1580 to 1700, with its professional types performing religions and secular plays like Otto's Sacramentales on Comedias, or drama during the Spanish colonial period in the Philippines, that is in 1565 to 1898, would heavily influence Filipino theater through religious plays like the Sinaculo. Okay, pag sinabi nating secular forms like the Moro-Moro and even eventually the more professional zarzuela. Okay. Spain also brought to the country through, though at a much later time, liberal ideas and an internationalism that influenced our own Filipino intellectuals and writers for them to be understood the meaning of liberty and freedom. Literature in this period may be classified as religious prose poetry and secular prose poetry. Okay, anong pinagkaiba ng dalawang to, no? So pag sinabi nating religious, okay, religious prose and poetry, okay, explore spiritual themes, okay, so yun. Spiritual themes, divine truths, and moral teachings often intended for followers of faith, with while secular prose and poetry, okay, um, focus on human experiences, societal issues, and everyday life aimed at a general audience, okay? So that's the difference between the two. Again, yung religious prose and poetry talks about spiritual themes, more on the spiritual aspects ito. Okay? So ating mga how divine truths, the teachings, no? That talks all about faith, no? Well, this one it's parang it's more on human experiences, okay? All right. So there are differences when it comes to purpose, content, and audience. Okay, for the purpose, well, either spiritual versus humanistic. Of course, spiritual tong religious prose and poetry, and then itong isa ay itong secular prose and poetry that is humanistic. Okay. For audience naman, for the content muna, of course, ang text when it comes to religious prose and poetry, of course, holy text, kasi nga spiritual, no? Holy text, okay? While for secular prose and poetry, when it comes to the content, that can be fiction or non-fiction, no? Others, when it comes to audience naman, of course, ito, religious prose and poetry, mga faith believers, okay? Mga believers in faith, yan ang mga audience natin when it comes to religious prose and poetry. While for secular prose and poetry, ayan yung broad, no? Kasi ang dami. No, not like this, not like this religious prose and poetry talks all about the spiritual aspect, our faith, no? However, for secular prose and poetry, humanistic approach nga eh. So lahat ng literal na pinagdadaanan nating mga tao, lahat yon pwede dyan, no? Okay. So examples include religious texts like hymns and prayers versus secular works like novels, nonfiction, and everyday poetry. Okay. Okay. Ayaw mag-next. Okay. So, okay, the American colonial period, okay? Wait lang. Okay, so during the Spanish colonialization, no, ano yung pinaka-great impact ng mga Spaniards sa atin? It's the religion, no, the Catholicism, no, or the Christianity, no. Yun yung pinaka-great impact ng mga Spanish sa atin, okay, during the Spanish era. Spanish colonization significantly impacted Philippine literature in introducing Christianity, the Roman alphabet, and the Spanish language, of course, Spain nga, no? Which became the literary language. This period saw the rise of religious texts, okay, grammars, folk songs, and plays, often blending European and Filipino traditions. Notable works or notable changes include the shift from the native Alibata alphabet to the Roman alphabet and the adoption of the Spanish and the language of and as the language of written communication. Siyempre, during the Spanish era, siyempre, Spanish yung Spanish language yun, no? Alangan naman. Okay. Next, sige. Okay, the American colonial period. A new set of colonizers brought about new changes in the Philippine literature. New literary forms such as free verse in poetry, the modern short story, and the critical essay were introduced. American influence was deeply entrenched with the firm establishment of English as the medium of instruction in all schools and with literary modernism that highlighted the writer's individuality and cultivated consciousness of craft sometimes at the expense of social consciousness. Okay. So the introduction of modern public education system. So yun yung great impact ng mga American natin, no, when it comes to education naman. One of the greatest influence of the American colonizers, no, during this time. So the introduction of a modern education system is widely considered the greatest contribution of American colonization in the Philippines. This system primarily taught in English significantly increased literacy rates and provided Filipino with access to Western knowledge and opportunities in government, business, and education. All right. So Edgar Allan Poe's Annabel Lee. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child, in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee. With a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that, long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee. So that her high-born kinsmen came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels not so happy in heaven went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But her love is stronger by far than the love of those who are older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel. And so all the night tide I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride. In her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. All right, so that's the poem of one of the poem of Edgar Allan Poe, which is Annabel Lee. Right. All right. So who is Edgar Allan Poe? He was born on January 19, 1809 in Massachusetts. Okay, Boston, Massachusetts. All right, and he was married to Virginia Eliza Poe. Okay. So Edgar Allan Poe is also considered as the master of macabre or the father of the detective story, or he is also one of the he is also the author of The Raven. Next, okay. So let's talk about the poem. All right. Okay. What is the poem all about? So The poem all about is it's a story of a young speaker mourning his beautiful lost love, which is Annabel Lee, whom he believed was killed by the jealous angel despite her death. The speaker insists their true love transcends death and spends every night by her tomb, demonstrating a powerful, enduring, and almost obsessive devotion that outlasts Cartly's earthly separation. The poem was a fairy tale-like atmosphere to emphasize the pure and magical nature of their love, which the speaker sees as the strongest force in existence. Okay, why does the speaker focus his attention on Annabel Lee? Okay, the speaker focuses his attention of Annabel Lee because awfully he is utterly consumed by the trauma of her death and memory of her profound eternal love, which he sees as a bond so strong that it was invaded by the angels. His obsessive focus is revealed through his insistence, practice of lying down beside her tomb each night, no? Suggesting an inability to process his grief. Okay, so uh, yun yung paraan niya para magluksa, no? Okay, what type of person is Annabel Lee? Annabel Lee is portrayed as a young, innocent, beautiful maiden in Edgar Allan Poe's poem, no? Who is the object of a profound, all-consuming love with the speaker. Her character is an idealization representing a perfect, pure love that even transcends death and so strong it incites from angels. No? Next, what made life meaningful to the narrator of the poem, okay? To the narrator of Edgar Allan Poe's Annabel Lee, life's meaning came from his all-consuming underlying love for Annabel Lee. He was saw as a purer than even the angels, purer than even the angels' happiness, a connection that persists beyond her death. He found purpose and solace in their shared memories and felt her soul was eternally connected to nature, especially the sea, his love for her, so intense that it became the singular focus of his existence, even after she was gone. Okay. So that's all about the story. Okay. So next we have contemporary period. Okay. The flowering of Philippine literature in the various languages continues, especially with the appearance of new publications after the martial law years and the resurgence of committed literature in the 1960s and in the 1970s. Okay. Contemporary refers to the present time. So what we have right now, that's part of contemporary, no? Encompassing the current social, cultural, economic, and political realities of the modern age. It is characterized by rapid advancement in technology. Of course, technology-driven na tayo no ngayon. Globalization and interconnectedness alongside ongoing challenges like climate change and social inequality. So it's all about contemporary period, no? Next, okay. Filipino writers to continue write poetry, short stories, novels, and essays, whether these are socially committed to gender, ethnic related, or are personal in intention or not. Of course, the Filipino writer has become more conscious of his art with the proliferation of the media of the writer's workshop here and abroad in the bulk of literature available to him via mass media, including the internet. The various literary awards such as the Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards for Literature, the Philippines Free Press, Philippine Graphic, Home Life, and Panorama Literary Awards encourage him to compete with his peers and hope that his creative efforts will be rewarded in the long run. Okay, so nowadays it's easy for us to have the parang i-present yung whatever works or whatever literary piece that we have, no? With the help of technology, with the advancement of technology, the mass media, and of course with the help of the internet. So it will be easier to the people to access whatever the literary piece that is being preserved, no? By the past generations, no? Okay. So, sorry. So among here are the main most commonly known authors. So we have Sister Home for the Weekend by Patria Rivera. Sorry. Okay, next we have Ponciano B. Peralta Pineda. Who is Ponciano B. Peralta Pineda? Okay. So Ponciano B. Peralta Pineda is the father of. Okay, Ponciano Peralta Pineda is a Filipino writer, teacher, linguist, and lawyer. Ponciano Pineda is considered as a father of the Commission on Filipino Language for his promotion to establish a commission based on Section 9 of our Philippine Constitution. Born on November 19, 1904, and died at age 81 years old in May 1986. One of his famous works is the Ang Mangingisda that was published in 1958. All right, next we have Aniceto Silvestre was born on April 17, 1898 in San Mateo, Rizal. Was died on October 28, 1983 in Sampaloc, Manila. Okay, one of his famous work is My Valentine. That was in February. That was on February 14, 1968. Jose Garcia Villa. August 5, 1908. February 7, 1997 was a Filipino poet, literary critic, short story writer, and painter. All right, next we have Jose Garcia Villa. Jose Garcia Villa was born on August 5, 1908 and died on February 7, 1997, was a Filipino poet, literary critic, short story writer, and painter. Jose Garcia Villa, 1908-1997, was a Filipino poet who used the pen name Dove Leon. Okay? So why Dove Leon? It is a combination of the words dove. Okay, bear in mind. Okay, what is Dove Leon? It's a combination of dove, eagle, and lion. Okay? And was what he believed was his true persona. Okay, one of his famous work is Anchored Angel. So during those times, no, or even nowadays, na, that's why, di ba, yung mga pseudonym, nicknames, or mga pen name na yan. So it has something to do somehow. The writers use that for us to, ano, of course, to represent ourselves, no? Kung ano yung true persona natin. Okay, next we have, okay, let's discuss it further. Okay, what is literature? Okay, literature broadly is any collection of written work, but it is also used more narrowly for writing, specifically considered to be an art form, especially prose fiction, drama, and poetry. Okay, so I have here the general types of literature. We have prose. Consists of those written within the common flow of conversation in sentences and in paragraphs. Example, okay, first one, we have novels. Okay, ano yung novels? A long narrative divided into chapters and events are taken from true to life stories. Example, Without Seeing the Dawn by Stefan Haviliana. Okay, next we have short story. This is a narrative involving one or more characters, one plot, and one single impression. Example, The Laughter of My Father by Carlos Bolosan. That's one of the examples of short story. Next we have, okay, plays naman. Okay, this is presented on the stage, is divided into acts, and each act has many scenes. All right. Examples of this: 13 plays by Wilfredo M. Guerrero. Okay. Next we have legends. All right, what is legends? Okay. These are fictitious narrative, usually about your origins. Okay. Example of this, the Bicol legend by Pio Duran. Okay. Next, we have fables. Okay. Fables, these are also fictitious and they deal with animals and inanimate things. So speak and act like people, and their purpose is to enlighten the minds of children to events that can mold their ways and attitudes. All right. So most of the time, itong fables, ang ginagamit nito, ang main character nito ay animals, no? Or sometimes mga inanimate objects, no? Of course, the target audience of these fables is the children, no? That's why, syempre, mga ganon ang ginagamit to catch the attention or, yeah, to catch the attention of the children. Syempre, ang audience mo ay children. So, mas masaya kasi ang mga bata kapag ganon yung mga characters, no? So, that's why. And, of course, their purpose is to give lessons or to give moral, okay? There's always moral of the story, no? Okay, example, The Monkey and the Turtle. So alam natin ang story ni The Monkey and the Turtle, no? That's what you see on the screen, no? Yan yung story na yon. All right, so there are three types of poetry and these are the following. All right, narrative poetry, lyric poetry, and dramatic poetry. Okay. Pag sinabing narrative poetry, this form describes important events in life, either real or imaginary. So you simply describe kung ano nangyayari, no? Important events, pwedeng imaginary or pwede ring real thing, no? While for lyric poetry, from the word itself, lyric, originally this refers to that kind of poetry meant to be sung to the accompaniment of a lyre, but now this applies to any type of poetry that expresses emotions and feelings of the poet. So in other words, so lyric poetry intended to be sung to the accompaniment of lyre, no? Next, dramatic poetry. Dramatic poetry, also known as dramatic verse or verse drama, is a written work that both tells a story and connects the reader to an audience through emotions or behavior. Okay, that is dramatic poetry. Ano tandaan natin? Dramatic verse or verse drama, okay? Connects the reader through emotions or behavior. Kaya nga, dramatic poetry, no? All right. So that ends my discussion for this afternoon. Thank you for having me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. And I do hope that somehow you learn from the discussion that we have. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye and God bless you all.